Hi, this is Bob from Hobby Concepts, and today I'm going to build this fuel tank trailer. Tamiya has made this kit for a long time, but recently it's just become super popular. And I haven't done one on YouTube yet, so I'm going to put it together. Really, it's kind of a review, because I'm not going to go through the step-by-step detail building, but I want to show you all the pieces and kind of how it goes together. This one has aluminum wheels and motorized legs. Beautiful, beautiful trailer when it's finished. I think you'll like it. Let's get started. So here's the parts for the tank trailer. I've got the Tamiya tank trailer kit. I'm going to put the motorized support legs on it, Tamiya's semi-trailer light kit, and I've got a couple of sets of 10-hole aluminum alloy wheels to put on it. So that's the options we're going to do. Pretty straightforward build, really a cool looking trailer. So I'm going to go ahead and get it unboxed, and we'll take a look at some of the parts. First thing you notice when you open the box is, hey, the tank is blue. It's not shiny. Well, it's blue because it's got that blue peel-off protective covering. It comes nicely packed with these little cardboard end things to keep it from rolling around. So later on we'll peel off this protective covering. You can see the end caps are shiny, but they've got a protective covering on too. Inside the main box, of course, typical Tamiya manual. Very first class. No problem there. Really kind of a cool decal sheet. Originally in the old days, this trailer kit came with, I think, shell decals, but they must not have a license for that anymore, so they kind of made something up. But it's really a nice looking decal. Comes with a lot of nice warning stickers and stuff. I like that. This box here has the metal parts in it, and this trailer has a lot of metal. Even the side pipes aren't plastic, they're stainless steel, it looks like. Beautiful extruded aluminum tray, black anodized frame rails, all very, very nice. Okay, after opening the box, pulling out the tank, I'm like, wait, there's no screws, there's no tires. Well, that's because they're packed inside this tanker trailer. Well, there's a couple tires right there. So all the parts are nicely packed inside here. Look at that. Oh, you gotta love Tamiya. They just do such a beautiful job with stuff. People ask me about other brands. I'm like, nah, I'm gonna stick with this. There's absolutely a reason why. Everything is so beautiful and nicely organized. There's the screws. And here's the plastic parts. Let's take a look in there. Quite a few parts. Nice fenders. Oh, polishing cloth for the stainless steel tank. Nice job, Tamiya. Okay, chrome parts. And this is interesting. There's chrome parts, and then there's aluminum finished parts. Let me pop these open here and show you what I'm talking about. Tamiya does aluminum finished parts in a lot of their plastic model kits, and they're doing them more and more in some of the RC kits. But instead of having that chrome, you can hopefully see the difference here. You get a really nice aluminum finish instead of the chrome finish, and it really makes a nice effect on a finished model because you've got that two-tone effect going on. So we'll start pulling these out and putting it together. Step one is to put this front plate together, and the important thing here, and the manual shows it, is these two holes right here go on that side, and I've done it wrong, so I'm very careful to do it right. You can see I bolted these two pieces on and glued on this piece of trim. So now on this side, basically I'm just going to bolt this on, bolt this one on, and then add this piece of trim, rubber trim. They give you one piece, and right here in the manual there's a cutting guide to cut it to the right length. And I just glue it on with some sticky cement, just put it on the edge and shove that over, and it looks like that when it's done. So I'll finish up this other side here. Well, this piece is done. So step 2, you actually have to flip this piece over, and then these frame rails bolt on. Now these frame rails have got that crazy blue protective covering. You got to remember to peel that off. And then third hole back just bolts on here with a bolt and a nut. And they don't put a lot of bolts in it yet because of the coupler pieces that have to go up on the front. So we'll start with just bolting these on, and we'll bolt these 2 cradles. They're nice. There's one that's slightly longer and one that's slightly shorter. Let's see here, yeah. And they bolt onto the frame like this back here. So there's a short one and there's a long one, and that puts the frame piece together. So I'll go ahead and assemble that. It's pretty straightforward, just normal screws. These are threaded, a little bit of Loctite on those. You can see I've got my long tank support here, my short one here. I just wanted to comment that this is not a symmetrical piece. These go up in the front so that the holes line up. Now they only have you put 4 screws in this step. There's only 4. So it would be easy to do it that way, but I think it'll bite you later. So just make sure you get it so all these holes line up. I'll go ahead and bolt that on. And there's the completed frame assembly. Pretty heavy piece. It looks really, really good. Moving on, it's time to mount the pin assembly, and that just bolts through the aluminum plate. And then this piece mounts here. The plate mounts on top of it, and these bolts drop through. Then they drop through this plate on the other side with this tank rest on top of it. And the tank rest has a recessed portion for the nut. This is just kind of interesting, a little typical Tamiya attention to detail. All their kits normally come with black 3mm nuts, but this one comes with silver because the nuts may be exposed on the top side and they want the color to match. Now, if you're using the non-motorized legs, this mounts under the back side. But since we're using the motorized legs, this switch block mounts underneath here. And the same thing. Bolt goes through all the way to the other side, and then this mounts on the top side with a captured nut. So I'm going to go ahead and bolt this all together. I did assemble the motorized landing legs. I didn't show that because I actually have another video with a flatbed trailer where I show assembling those parts. The only important thing to note is Tamiya shows twisting the wires together and covering with rubber tubing. Don't do that. Solder everything. 12-volt connections, if they're not soldered, they just become problematic. So I'll go ahead and assemble this piece. There's our assembled plate. That looks like. Now it's just mounting the legs, and if you're doing the standard legs or the motorized legs, it doesn't matter, they mount like that. The motor's going to drop in here. That's why we left the 2 screws out when we originally assembled it. And in this case, the battery box just tapes inside the frame. So I'm going to go ahead and assemble that. Get me done with this front end here. So I've got the bottom part finished with the legs, and now these tank support cradles need to go on, and they just mount against the solid part of the frame like this, and are held on with self-tapping screws from up underneath. Once those are on, these tubes slide through the rails, so I'm going to go ahead and mount those. With these supports in place, then these tubes just slide right through here, and then there's a little cap that just mounts on the end and screws into this brace to lock the tube in. And that's kind of a nice feature because they come with some warning stripe decals. So if you're doing a fuel tanker, you could use those warning, well, I suppose anything. A lot of different warning labels, so we'll see about putting those on later, but you could just take out one screw, slide this tube out, put the sticker on and slide it back in. Time to start thinking ahead a little bit, so let's take a look at the semi-trailer light set. I have not shown one of these before on one of my videos. Pretty straightforward little set. Comes with a set of instructions, comes with a wiring harness. Just open it up and show you what that looks like. And a few little parts and pieces, bits. It's got a long harness for the trailer, which is this harness right here. And it's designed for these lights to mount in the rear bumper and for this plug to come out of the front of the trailer and plug into the truck. And then it has this small harness that mounts on the truck, and it's designed to plug into the MFC, mount up in the cab, so that you can plug this into it for the trailer light. So pretty simple, but we do need to install it. And it plugs into the MFC in this location right here. So it couldn't be easier to install on the MFC, but we do need to get it on the trailer. And on the tank trailer, we have to run this through the inside of the tank. And then it's got a hole here in the front area where the wire comes out, but it doesn't fit that way, so you have to thread it back through here, thread it through the tank. There's a hole in the bottom of the tank that comes out right here, and then we drop it into the rear bumper. So it's just a few things to think about. Now it's time to set up the rear bumper. Because I'm doing lights, I don't want to finish everything, but I can snap in the lenses. This little mount here, I put a piece of double sticky tape on it, and it just sits in here and is the base for the rear ladder. So we can stick that in. I always use a little micro crystal clear for the lenses. Even though they snap into place, they just don't stay that good. So I always like to have a little extra resource in there to hold it. So those mount like that. The mud flaps are going to mount on this metal bracket. This is going to mount on here. You can see that we can get to the back side of it, and this is going to mount on the back of the trailer. We need to mount it before we mount the tank, because the tank covers up these screws here. So I'll go ahead and assemble this and we'll mount it. Well, I mounted the rear bumper and bracket, and all that looks pretty good. I mounted one fender because I wanted to check and make sure I could get into this screw down here to put the back plate on after I do the LEDs, and I can. So I'm going to go ahead and mount the other fender. I also mounted the two chalk brackets. These fenders just mount on with a 3x8 screw like this and a nut. So I'll finish that, and then it's instructions have me doing the suspension, which is going to be pretty straightforward. Well, here's the main suspension components, pretty much the same as every truck or trailer. A couple things worth noting. One is these need to be really straight through the U-bolts. It's easy to get them crooked. So when assembling, that's something to look for. Second is on these shocks, and thank goodness they didn't use those pink shocks like the King Hauler. They've got nice silver shock bodies. Use a drop of Loctite when you screw this in, because I have had these come apart after a lot of use. The axles, of course, sealed ball bearings, only way to go. They just drop in pretty simply since they're not a driven axle. And on these, probably going to be impossible to see it on the video, but there's a raised lip on one side and no raised lip on the other, so you just want to make sure you don't mix them up. And they'll kind of snap together, and they just use a single bolt to hold them together while you're working on them. When you bolt them to the suspension bolts, let's see here, get this baby on. The suspension bolts go right through here and also hold the axles together. So I'm going to go ahead and install this. None of this is complicated. The directions are really good. These bolts just go through here like that. Nut on the back side. Loctite on all the metal parts. So I'll go ahead and put the suspension together. So these aluminum wheels are really nice. When they come, they're just held together with a couple of screws, so they come apart easily. I use a little hex head screw, so I just pop them apart, put the tires on. And then after, I'll glue them. I typically always glue them, even on trailers. Driving wheels, they absolutely need to be glued or the wheel will slip inside the tire. But, yeah. I'll glue them on, and this just fits back together. And there's a little pile of hex head screws to hold it together, and when it's all done, it looks like that. So we'll finish up that last one. Well, there's the suspension all put together, wheels on. Flip it over here. Now it's ready to put the tank on. The tank is held on by bolts that come up from underneath with nuts inside. So the tank is hollow and the end caps come off. Basically it's going to sit like this. I'm going to pull the end cap off on each end, get in there and do the nuts and put the bolts up from underneath, and then these vent caps mount with a bolt and a nut underneath. So that's going to take a lot of arm reaching inside and fiddling around. Pretty straightforward stuff, but to do that, I'm going to have to peel off this protective cover. So from now on, I have to be very careful. I can't flip it back upside down anymore and set it on this for a chance of damaging it. And this is the top frame, which bolts on with these. So, boy, that looks good. A few parts and pieces to put together. I'll take a couple little shots along the way, but I'm going to pull these ends off and kind of start on this. Well, I actually struggled with how to do this, trying to put the bolts up from the bottom while keeping this thing lined up was really hard. So finally what I decided was just to peel this protective film away on the bottom, and then I can lay it upside down and I can drop the bolts through and then take the nut and reach up inside. I got to put some Loctite on it and then screw it down. So that actually worked really good. So I'm going to go ahead and finish putting those bolts in. That's now mounted down solid. What I did was just take off this blue plastic protective cover and cut it in half and move it down just so I don't take a chance of scratching the sides. This aluminum extrusion here only fits one way. The holes line up like this. And then these plates mount like that. They give you actually a special stainless steel bolt to hold it on, and then a nut on the inside. So those capture this aluminum trim, so I'm going to go ahead and bolt that down. So with that top plate mounted, it's now time to run the light string through. So I pulled it through the grommet, pulled it through this plate, and now I have to feed it down to the other end of the trailer. Turn the trailer around here. And then it feeds through this hole in the bottom here. And we can pull these through. And then mount the LEDs in the back bumper. And to do that, I'm going to have to flip this upside down. So with some carpet, I'll get those mounted in. Well, with the tank done, there's some little detail parts. First one is this drain pipe tee, which just bolts onto the top bumper of the bracket. Get that bolted on. Okay, bunch of little parts here that really dress up the back end. This metal bracket bolts on here. This pipe bolts to this. And then this assembly has bolts that hold it here. The bracket then will hold up the top of the ladder. The stainless steel pipe will go between the two pipes. I'll assemble this and then I'll put it on. There's that assembly put together. The ladder has a bottom. It's got these notches on it. So we'll just put that in there. Fit those in there. Put this pipe in between them. And it goes just like that, and then the screws mount it on right there. We'll get that put together. The final bit are these little metal grab rails, and they just drop in up here with a little bit of glue. I'm not going to glue them right now, I'm just going to stick them in there, but that finishes up the back end. So I'll peel this off, we'll take a look at it. Well, there we go. Completed Tamiya tanker trailer. It is just beautiful. Super shiny. It'll look good too when it gets decals on it. We've got the 10 spoke aluminum wheels on it. We've got the motorized landing legs on it. You see the nice detail work in the back, the ladder and everything. Really in this video I wanted just to show you the trailer as much as a complicated build video. It builds up actually pretty simply, but just looks spectacular and has been super popular lately. So there you go, Tamiya semi-truck tank trailer, and all finished. Hey, thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Please hit the little thumbs up like button. I really appreciate that, and we'll see you next time.